Welcome back to the Backyard Professor Chess videos. I'm up here in the high sea hills in the forests and by the Snake River. It's running around behind me. Beautiful spot, a beautiful morning. Let me show you a Sicilian defense by David Bronstein. He's versing Bel Milovic. And this is the Donner Memorial in Amsterdam in 1994. Now, the thing about this game that is so interesting is Bronstein is in his 70s when he's playing this game. Watch how good he plays when he's in his 70s. This is amazing. He's going to do a Sicilian. Bronstein is the black pieces, Donner is the white pieces. Typical beautiful opening on the Sicilian. All guns go. The C will take the D pawn, of course, and the knight returns the favor. And of course we have the central influence of white at this point. And Bronstein, of course, is going to typically pull a knight up on F6, and then the second knight comes out on C3, and then I believe this is the Najdorf, where he pushes the A6 to stop any silly shenanigans over here on the queen side, and the knight coming up and forking the king and the rook. That A6 push in the Najdorf is a really important one. And then bishop to E3, and what this does, of course, pulls it up, supports this central knight here. A typical move. Now, Bronstein's taking it calmly. He's got a small but compact center. He covers all four of these critical central squares against any central tactics. So this is really a good, more or less conservative move. There's many people who put him up on E5 immediately that challenges the center directly. This particular opening in the Najdorf, Bronstein is not doing that this time. Queen comes up to D2, connecting with the bishop, perhaps coming up into here. Once the G-pawn comes up and he fianchettos his bishop and castles, if that is what black does. Instead, Bronstein's going to start pushing his B side. Now, in the Sicilian, typically, because of the nature of the setup, you can see automatically right now, simply by bumping up the queen, by developing the bishop, bumping up the queen, this is the direction he's going to go, isn't it? To the king side. And so Bronstein, rather than getting mowed over, the proper chess strategy in the Sicilian, in many of the variations, if not all of them, push your pawns. Bring your pieces into activity and go on the queen side. And so we see this is what Bronstein is doing. F3, beautiful support of the E4 pawn. And then Bronstein brings out his knight, B to D7. The nice thing about this knight is he can come over to the king side to defend, or he can go over to the queen side to attack. That's a nice centralizing move for that knight. And then G4, he's starting his kingside attack. With the G4 push, he is gaining more kingside space so that he can operate on the king side. So we can see this is turning out to be a beautiful Sicilian. White on the king side, black on the queen side. And Bronstein, being the phenomenal chess player that he was, isn't going to simply let white mow him over on the king side. He's going to prepare a little bit, have that push, to stop the pawns from destroying his structure entirely. And now he'll castle queenside. This also is typical in a Sicilian. You'll see this a lot with the dragon, the Sicilian dragon, and here I believe this is the Najdorf. He does castle queenside also. This is a typical maneuver, and then the bishop to B7, grabbing the long diagonal, keeping an eye on those center pawns. That's nice. And then here comes the kingside push. Now you can see they're about even as far as their distance away to attack, but Bronstein can get to his attack earlier. And that's why he pushed those pawns so early, is now he's hitting the knight here. The knight will bop back down to E2. And now he's pushed on the queen side, right? What this has done is it virtually forces white to more or less centralize his forces. Now this can't be bad. You know, the idea of centralizing your pieces really superb because that gives you proper coordination, not only for the center, but more for the king side. So in a way, coming down the queen side gives the white player more power to go to the king side. So Bronstein here does the correct thing and pushes d5. He also wants to make sure his center is solid and strong, and he will attack white in the center as well. Doing the queen side and pushing his pieces over toward the center, now he focuses on the center. That's important. He doesn't want to get blown away out of the center in any manner. So this is good chess. From a gentleman in his 70s, bishop h3. Now d will take the e4 pawn, absolutely. Take the d4 pawn, contest the center. He continues on with his kingside thrust. I hear guns. Guns and four-wheelers. Woohoo! I'm out among the campsites. He's going to push his g5 to begin his kingside attack because Bronstein has him over here. And Bronstein calmly takes the g5 with his h-pawn. Now, the nice thing about this attack from white at this point is it gives Bronstein the open file. So that can't be all bad. And, of course, h is also going to take the g5. So now they have an open file to contest. The bishop's pinned to the rook at this point. However, he's got his rooks connected. Now, Bronstein hasn't castled. So his rooks are not connected. Ooh, a sandhill crane. Hang on, I'm going to show you this. This is a sandhill crane if I can do this. Oh, right in the sun. Sandhill crane, they're awesome. I don't know if I can see them or not. Nope. Oh well. That was a fun adventure. Complete waste of time. Crap, now I forgot what I was even saying. Maybe. So anyway, I got distracted by the sandhill cranes. I love those things. They're awesome. So the idea is Bronstein is not castled yet, so white may be further along in his development. The question is, who has the better attack? At this point, that is the question. Now, E goes ahead and takes the f3 pawn. I hope I haven't skipped a move here. No, I don't think I have. And this is going to put the knight onto g3, which is a good, on a kingside attack, a g3 with the knight is not bad. He can come up into here and here. He can come up into here and here. That's not a bad place for the knight at all. Now, again, notice his central push is kind of forcing some things over onto the king side. And Bronstein, once again, hits the center. This is really important to fathom, to try to understand, and put into practice. It's easier to talk about than practice, right? Now, the g-pawn takes the f6, so the knight has been dismissed. And, I mean, the kingside attack is on, although it doesn't look like it's really a prominent, powerful kingside attack just yet, although he is disrupting the pawns. His queenside, hey. Hold on, no wind. The queen side is blown away as far as pawn cover goes. Come on, stay calm. Here comes the winds. I'm going to have to clamp this down. So we're having a good game here. Either side could get into trouble pretty quick. Drops the king to b1. The queen will come up to c7. Here we go. Now here's a queen side. Here's a queen side thrust, and the nice thing is bishop comes up to f4, and he's going to get a good diagonal pinning that knight to the queen, which is not bad. So the bishop f4 is a great move. And watch how Bronstein handles this. Develop the bishop. Whoop, nope, this one. Bring that fianchettoed bishop, put him to use on d5, hitting toward the castled king. That's nice. Good, powerful centralization. Looking to the king. Queen's going to bump up here to e3, keeping the center in check. And now bishop's going to come to e7. Now Bronstein has an option of castling either direction, doesn't he? That's nice. It's nice to keep your options open. Yes, the attack has come, but it's not breathing down his throat on his rank and files. They're still back here, so he hasn't castled yet. Don't worry, Bronstein knows what he's doing. Now bishop drops back to g2. This is a very interesting idea. His opponent wants to open up the file. And his opponent wants to get the file because Bronstein has not castled. His rooks are not connected. So pop that bishop down and swap the rooks, and white's going to get that open file. Now that's real interesting. That's kind of a nifty little tactic done on Bronstein, isn't it? And of course, the rook takes, but then his opponent takes it with the bishop instead. He probably wants to keep a check on this pawn and this bishop, but I think the open file with the flush the king out would have been a very good strategy too. And it's at this point that Bronstein's going to go ahead and castle. He says, yeah, that gives me a nice central file. I'm going to oppose the file on the D, that D rook down there. That's a good time to castle. I've got my pawn here. I've got my bishop coming here. I've got my bishop on a nice outpost looking this way. I've got my knight on a knight outpost coming into here and here, guarding my pawn. Bronstein's really in great shape in this particular instance. And knight is going to take that pawn, however. True, Bronstein had it covered, and he does have it covered, so they may contest, but that pawn is too strong, truly. Now, rather than reacting over here, you notice some of his pieces are being over to here. Yes, he wants to do a kingside, but Bronstein's castled that direction now. And some of his pieces are being lured over here because of that knight. Now's the time to strike on the king's side. Look at that. Check to the king. It's a bishop sacrifice because it's a discovered attack on the rook that's sitting all by himself. He's not protected. That's a very, very nice tactic. Rather than take the bishop, he moves his king over to keep his rook. And Bronstein takes the rook anyway and goes check. So it didn't work. Doggone it. Good try, but no cigar, kiddo. And then king takes d1, of course. Now the king is sitting on an open file. His cover is somewhat compromised. He doesn't have a lot of escape squares or safe haven. So this is kind of interesting. And Bronstein will take immediate action, knight c4, absolutely. And the queen, being hit, is going to come down to c1 to stop any shenanigans down the a-file if things go that way. And once again, Bronstein has focused on a queenside attack against the castled king, but he's going to play in the center also, and he's going to come right up the center. Now, this bishop, what this does, it puts the bishop way up here on h6 in the middle of nowhere land. There's nothing over here. There's really no good squares for that bishop to go to. So again, the central play of Bronstein is pushing his opponent's materials to this side of the board and up and away from all the action. That's really interesting to observe that, isn't it? And now he proceeds f5. Now, isn't this interesting? White was the one that began with the kingside attack. And now it looks like through the center and somewhat on the king side, Bronstein's got the attack. Isn't that fun? That is really interesting here. He's going to give himself some... It's too congested, too crowded, too powerful, so he's going to try to give himself some breathing room. And rather than reacting over here, now Bronstein's going full bore over here on the center and the king side. He pushes the pawn. And that drives the knight down to f1. And now that he's kind of, scattering white to the four winds, he's going to bring his queen to d6, check. That open file is going to start costing this king if he doesn't get away from it. King e2, and now queen takes the h6 bishop. That's a phenomenal fork. Really excellent maneuver. And the knight comes into the center now. And now white is on the defense. He's been put into the defensive posture, of course. Queen's going to take the bishop on h1, and now white's in trouble. It's kind of interesting how, and it's not a lot of pieces, but the complete view of Bronstein is he's completely surrounded his opponent, hasn't he? That's really kind of a cool looking image. And the knight is lost on c4, and he should take that. And once again, those central pawns, even in the end game, throughout the course of the middle game and on into the end game, man, that steady push of pawns really beginning to put the pressure on the king because he's been flushed out. That's nice. That's nice to see. You've got people over here, you've got pieces over here, a piece over here kind of keeping the king in the center, and now you're coming in the center with the pawns. That's like a vice. That's nice to see. That is really cool. Well, queen a1, queen's had it with that bishop there. Got to get the bishop out of here. Not so fast, cowboy. Queen h5, check. Let's just make sure we're keeping guard of the most important person here. King f2, and now the bishop gets involved, coming across the cross check. Nice. That's really cool how that works. Of course, the king can only go to g2, and now you can see the king's been flushed out and exposed. So with pieces over here, he's getting to the king. With a piece over here, he's getting to the king. And now, with his pawns in the center, just that steady march, he's clamping down on the king. Check to the king. Really a tough situation white's in, isn't it? And now bishop d6 comes up to check the king. And white's just about had it. He realizes, well, I'm more or less done. And of course the queen to h4, and now the mating net. You can see the mating net beginning to take place against the king. He really doesn't have a lot of places left. The only last place he can do is dodge here, and now the bishop comes back down to c5. From here, he didn't have a mating net, but now that he's kind of herded him up into here, the mating net's pretty strong. So it's there that white resigns. Bronstein played this cotton-picking game in his 70s. That's phenomenal to see how crisp and clear and powerful. He played chess throughout his entire life, and he never stopped playing chess. Tom Furstenberg's excellent book of, I think he collected 244 of Bronstein's games. The Sorcerer's Apprentice is a marvelous collection of some of his games, all the way up into his old age. So there's your chess-a-size out here from the lovely High C Hills. I'm going to go take some video of the hills so that you can see them in the video. And there's your chess-a-size. Be good, have fun, do well, be nice, eat well, sleep good, study hard, be good citizens, etc. What else can I tell you to do? Boy, that's a list of long to-dos, isn't it? Oh, and I will see you in the next video.